I was waiting on a street corner trying to cross the road. A car pulled up in front of me and the male driver winked at me, kissed at me and patted the passenger seat. I gave him a disgusted look and took a step back towards the safety of the corner shop that I'd just walked out of, making him drive away. I was 10 years old. Whilst on a school trip with my year, a man on the other side of the canal we were standing by opened up his coat and started masturbating in front of us. There were about 90 of us, all in our school uniforms, all aged between 12 and 13. 3 boys followed my 2 friends and I down a road. One of them got close enough that he grabbed my arse. When I whacked his hand away and said, "Don't touch me," he replied, "Well, you shouldn't have been wearing that skirt." I was 13, wearing my school uniform with mandatory skirt. On the coach going to and from PE lessons, the playing fields my school used were a short drive away. We'd drive past a garage where at least one of the men working there would notice the coach full of teenage girls in their gym kits and mime kissing, wanking or having sex towards us. This happened at every single time we drove past from when we were about 13 to 14 years old. Several drivers beeped at my friend and I as we were walking along because we dared to wear shorts in the summer. They weren't even short shorts, they were just regular shorts. We were about 15. 2 boys older and bigger than me followed me down the road shouting "Oi mate, oi bruv," because I had a short pixie style haircut. I was 16, wearing my well-known local girls' school uniform with mandatory skirt. I also know that I was developed enough to not look like a boy because, also aged 16, whilst walking along wearing a low-ish cut and adorable V-neck t-shirt, several men decided to make creepy faces, noises and boob-grabbing gestures towards me. Oh, and I was walking along with my mum. Since the age of 18, it's been nearly impossible to go into a club just to dance without me or my friends being groped, grabbed, leered at, or having some guy rub their crotch up against us. Age 21, I was out with members of my mostly female university dance society. When we accidentally walked into a private party for the uni men's rugby teams, they started singing a lovely rugby song about tits, sex, vaginas, etc. Such gentlemen. Age 23, on my way to work, a drunk guy got on the bus stinking of alcohol and decided to sit directly behind me despite the bus being pretty empty. This was no big deal to me until I felt him lean forwards and make kissy noises into my ear. I once walked past a barber's and actually heard a guy inside say, "Damn!" I thought this was kind of funny until he came out of the barber's and started following me down the road making catcalling kissy noises. He didn't seem to realise that what he was doing was both rude and threatening, so when I didn't respond in the way that he thought I should, he shouted some not very nice things at me down the street. Age 24, 2 men made suggestive gestures towards me as I ate a cylindrical wrap because lol, penis. And just before I turned 25, whilst waiting at a bus stop to get to work, an elderly man came up to me and said something really quietly. I assumed he was asking for the time or something, so I asked him to repeat himself. He did, and I found out that he was actually saying, "I'll give you £20 if you show me your knickers." I said no very sternly and stepped away, but he kept following me saying, £20, knickers. So I decided to speed walk onto the next bus stop and pray he wasn't getting on my bus. These are just some examples of the harassment I've faced in public spaces. This stuff happens to women all over the world every single day and often from a very young age. They're more common in more populated areas, and honestly, these stories of mine are really tame compared to some. Sometimes it's a straight up insult, usually for not meeting the perfect physical standards women must meet. Hair length, weight, breast size, etc. Sometimes it's things that certain people say we should take as compliments, but they're actually really fucking creepy and done purely for the creeper's pleasure with no regard to the woman's feelings. Sometimes they do it in a really subtle way, so they have a chance to deny it if you call them out on it. Sometimes something even worse can follow, like my friend being followed down the road, pinned against a tree, molested, and threatened with rape if she screamed. Men and other genders can also face this type of harassment, and I also think that needs to stop. And to those that, whenever this conversation comes up, inevitably say, well, I would never do something like that, well done you for reaching basic levels of human decency. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that there are enough men out there that do this stuff that nearly every single woman that I know has experienced some form of street harassment. Anyway, to those of you who've got this far into the video, thank you very much for listening. If any of you want to educate yourselves further about street harassment or learn how you can help, then I'm going to stick a few links down below for you guys to check out. I just wanted to share some of my stories so that people would realise how common this stuff actually is. And remind them yet again that it is not a compliment.